I think we're ready to kick off. What do you reckon?
Let's do it.
Well, welcome everyone that's joined us for this webinar. As a bit of a product update, I'll be one of your hosts this afternoon. So my name is Dave Chalmers. I look after product at EdApp, and my co-host is Luke Rowan.
Hey everybody. So I'm going to be taking a back seat today. We've got Dave here to take us through new features, and there's no one more qualified to talk about what we're doing and what's coming next than Dave. So it's a great day because I'm not going to be boring you with my normal webinar spiel today. We've got Dave to steal the show here. What I'm going to do today is just call out questions as we go through. If there's any interesting questions that come up as we reveal features, I'll shout them out to Dave and we can unpack. Apart from that, let's get into it.
We'll get into it. So let's just quickly talk about the agenda for today. So what I wanted to highlight today was going through some of the stuff that we recently released, items that help with the blended training journey, and things that are coming soon with quite a focus on compliance and making that much easier. And so as we go through, as Luke said, please feel free to add any questions. We'll stop for some of them, and we'll also have time at the end for any other questions that you might have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump really quickly into the first item because we've got a packed agenda for today, and that's the recently released stuff. And so definitely within EdApp, one of the things that the product team is trying to do is make sure that we can cover the use cases that our customers have. And some of that is around more face-to-face training. Certainly, it was never a problem during the pandemic, but now we're well out of that, hopefully. You can see that there's a need for a lot of blended learning in our customers. And one of the things that we looked at first was around how do we provide a solution for folks where training on devices is perhaps not possible. That can be environments like manufacturing and so on, where you can't really use devices when you're on the shop floor. And that's when we came to the first feature that I want to talk about, which is group training. And effectively, group training allows you to deliver and track your training all within EdApp and all within and alongside the microlearning. And this is to basically replace the training that's typically delivered, maybe in a meeting room or a lunchroom, around a TV or a computer, or PowerPoint. And that training usually tends to have some form of compliance. So you have to make sure that those that have attended it are recorded as having seen it. And so this is where the genesis for the feature that we call group training came from. And it was recently released, and it's getting used in a lot of the areas that I mentioned. And some of those are, around on-site toolbox talks, so like safety meetings. And we also combine those with things like rapid refresh for assessing the stuff that's been learned inside of those toolbox talks. But it's also can be used in not just, I suppose, construction manufacturing, but also in white-collar workplaces, for skills development and product education updates, and indeed in retail too. So there's quite a few different environments where taking the group training environment and group training functionality can be used alongside traditional microlearning. And so what we might do is just to highlight how this feature is used, we might just do a little bit of a demo. So over the course of this presentation, we're going to kind of hop out of the slides into EdApp to show you where these things live and how they work. Yeah, so I'm just going to very quickly escape out of here. And oops, it's a bit of a spoiler for the next part that's coming up there. And I'm going to take you through the first part, which is a group training session. So in here, I've logged in as an admin on one of our demo accounts. And in here, I'm going to show you one of our group training enabled courses. And so to effectively, we've got one down here, weekly toolbox talk. and we'll go into here. And this one has been enabled so that we can show it as a group training course. So if we get into the Facilitate tab, which is where all the group training is held, you'll see this course in here where we can then start a session. When we start a session, what that does effectively puts the course into a presentation mode where you can take learners through the entire course. Now, it does lots of cool things where you can present it in full screen mode so you can see everything and you're not distracted with the lessons and so on the side. But most importantly, what you can do here is you can add attendees for your group training session. So imagine you're running this in the in a training room, and you're able to just go and start calling a roll call for the people that are involved, and we can just add them in. If you do allow devices, and I'm going to swap over to my device over here. If you do allow devices in that training room, you can make this even easier, where using just the phone, they can then scan the QR code, and then if they're logged in the background, you'll see them log in. So that's really useful. So that makes it super easy for whoever's facilitating the training session to take that roll call. Once you've got all your people in the group training session, and you go through the courseware and you can ask them stuff, and it's really great. I mean, what I've heard about this that beats PowerPoint is that because you're using EdApp courses, you can add all the interactive elements and kind of make that a bit of call and response with the people in your audience to make that training session more engaging. Once you're done, of course, then you can end the session. And what that does is it will take all the people who are registered with that session and it will mark them as complete for that course. So that's a really, really powerful way for you to both make it engaging and easy for folks to take face-to-face training inside of the workplace. Luke,
Dave, can I jump in here with a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
When you're running those sessions, for example, we've got our weekly toolbox talk here.
Yeah.
If I'm running this every Tuesday, for example, at 1 p.m., is it just simply that I click start the session every week, or do I need to create new modules to track attendance for those different weeks?
Great question. So effectively, every time you want to start a new session, you don't have to create a new course or anything. You can just go ahead and create a new session for that course. And what that does in the background as well is it will actually show a list of all the sessions that have been taken for that. Sorry, let me just jump out of there in a second. It will show a list of all the sessions that have been taken by your learners. So you can see all the sessions, all the group training sessions, and you can see the facilitators, in this case me, and all the people who have taken the session as well. And so you don't have to create anything extra. You can keep using that same course every week, or you can use different courses as you need them. Yeah.
Good stuff.
And look, you've spoken to quite a few of our clients that have used this so far. What sort of use cases have you seen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the safety environments, obviously this is a perfect fit for teams that, gather people together for safety briefings week in, week out. It's really essential that those face-to-face training interventions happen alongside any theory. Of course, in certain environments, micro-learning is a great enhancement of face-to-face, but it's never going to be the primary means of training. I did hear a really interesting one the other day. We spoke to a hospitality association, and they were talking about gathering teams together before a shift to talk about the new menu, and just as a way of recording that people were in a room and they heard about menu changes, and you have a log to show that people are now kind of up to date with what they should be telling customers. So although we may defer to the obvious points here with safety, it can be applied to any sort of scenario.
Yeah, and it's great. And I think that the other thing that I've heard from customers that are using it is, this is a lot of this is replacing, the people using sign-in spreadsheets, maybe whether they're handwritten or in an Excel spreadsheet. And really it's bringing together that kind of face-to-face and the micro learning and the digital learning together in one place. So that learning record is all the same. So what I might do is I might jump back into the presentation very quickly. And I don't know if there's any questions that are pertaining to group training before we do move on. And maybe give us a second just to have a look at those.
Let's keep pressing ahead, Dave.
Right. No problem. And so the other great feature to do with the blended journey is practical assessments. And so practical assessments are a fantastic way for you to essentially take the learner's journey from theory into practical. So the self-paced learning that you might have for your learners, and then adding in a practical assessment where in person those skills can be assessed. And so it really does allow you to create a learning journey for someone where you might be showing them the concept or the theory behind something and then testing that at the end. So how does it work? Well, practical assessments essentially, it allows you to build an assessment form for a particular topic. And when the learner gets to that point in their learning journey, they've got a QR code they can show to an assessor, which will then launch the assessment. Now that QR code is unique for that learner and for that assessment type. And then that allows them to then start, the assessor in this case, allows them to then start marking them against the tasks that are in the assessment. And so, again, use cases for this are very wide. I've heard of just this week of folks using this for, and I won't name brand names, of course, but using this for assessing people making coffee and how they pour it, the types of beans that they recommend, how quick the service is, do they remember to mention the specials that are on the board. But equally, I've also seen this used in environments where in the fitness world, where folks are showing people to correctly use machines and assessing the fitness instructors. So there's a wide range of use cases for practical assessment where you can observe someone undertaking the training or performing the training that you've given them. And so that could be everything from manufacturing and construction to retail and merchandising displays or the customer service that they provide, hospitality, making sure that people use the right equipment or use the equipment in the right way, maintaining food safety, so on and so on. There's so many different use cases for this. Before we get into demo, what sort of use cases are you hearing about? Because this has been a massive feature for us, and I think we've had well over 1,000 different types of assessment forms created just in the last month alone.
Yeah, lots of really novel ideas. I've seen logbooks created for security staff, so staff that look after security at different venues, etc. So actually, kind of creating that evidence of physical actions in the workplace. It may not be a final assessment, but rather just the fact that actions have been undertaken. I saw a really great one. A customer shared a manufacturing process, the actual kind of A to Z of how to put together a physical item on the production line. And of course, that is a very exact process that needs to be verified. That was really cool. And I learned a few things myself on how this particular item was put together and the quality that goes into it. So yeah, lots of fun ways to use it.
Great stuff. And so basically how it works is, it's like I say, it's really simple. That learner has their own QR code for their assessment. The assessor scans the code, performs the assessment, and they can track the results inside of the LMS. What I'm going to do is very quickly, I'm going to show you that inside of this account that we've got prepared for this webinar. And so what I mentioned before was, being able to create the learner's journey with this. So in this first section here, what we're seeing is a coffee making example for a made up coffee place, I believe. And what we've got is the journey of different types of coffees and how they're made. And so these are the coursework that represents essentially theory for making the coffee. And then as we get towards the end of this course, the practical assessments come in where you're actually assessing the skills of making the coffee in person. Now, to make one of these, it's pretty straightforward. Here you're seeing like a preview of what an assessment might look like. But if I wanted to go and edit it, there's so many options for you to build up the assessments. It really can suit whatever use case that you've got. On the left-hand side, we've got various different types of fields that you can add in. These are ones we prepared earlier. And recently, since we released this, I think, so this would be week 4 or 5, if I remember rightly, from us launching. And in that time, we've already had a couple of iterations as well of practical assessments. So we've now added in the ability for you to add video. So you can go in and add in video evidence and have a thing there to say, please add video of brewing coffee. And that they can just use their phone to do that as they're making their assessment. Excuse my typing. And they can go ahead and add a video in here. And another good one that we've added in recently as well is the ability to add in signatures. Now, whilst you might not need that for brewing in coffee, but something that maybe requires a bit more of a regulation, something like forklift training, driving, or indeed different things are going to need sign off from the assessor, and maybe even the person being assessed themselves as well, as a form of sign off that's then captured signature here. So as you can see, there's lots of different ways for us to be able to formulate these forms for the assessment and roll them out.
Dave, can I just ask a question here, just from the chat?
Yeah.
If the learner or the user is asked to sign off on their participation here, how does that happen? What is the kind of the experience with the assessor and the learner participating?
Yeah, great question. So probably I might start, just if it's okay, from the outset, the design of the feature. So, excuse me, the feature was originally designed with the mind of, both parties being present. Hopefully they've got devices, though that's not necessary, and I'll show you how you can do that later. But effectively being able to scan that QR code and then start the assessment itself. Then at the point at which the assessor is happy to go through and sign off, you would then get a bit of a review of the assessment form, hand the device over to the learner, get them to sign off too, and then mark that as either pass or try again for the assessment. So that's how it's designed to work. So of course we realize there are some environments where you might not have access to either the QR code, or indeed the assessor might not have a device with them at the time. So there's a couple of things that we're working on there, but I just want to take you through other options that you've got. So if, let's say, you have someone who doesn't have their device, I'm just going to very quickly bring up another screen that I prepared earlier. Just so that to give everyone context on the call, I'm now logged in as a facilitator, so the assessor in this case, and they have a very restricted view of what they can see in the admin portal. And so you can see stuff like group training there, other discussions that they might be a part of, assignments, and so on. But here's the practical assessment bit that I wanted to show you. So let's say you've got a learner who doesn't have their QR code available to them. That's not really a big problem. We can just go into our assessment, search for that particular learner, and then we'll look for Jill. And we can resume or start the practical assessment for Jill, no problem. So if she doesn't have the QR code, it's okay. It's not a problem at all. And you can go ahead and start that. And here's me doing it on the desktop. Of course, we could do that on any device if we needed to. So I think that's the other thing to mention here is, we're showing a very simple coffee assessment, coffee pouring assessment. Some of you might have assessments that might take multiple observations or multiple, it's quite a long one over a series of days. It's not a problem. You can just save and exit once you've captured some of the information that you need to. So we can just kind of update the assessment, save and exit, and away you go. So I think I've got some just some stuff that I need to sort there before I can actually assess it. But it's very easy to find it out the without the QR code. And indeed, if you don't have the QR code, we can find them here. And if later on, we're also working on a version of being able to do this offline. So we'll be able to download a form onto a device and take it into an environment where there is no signal, so that you can do assessments in environments where Wi-Fi access is not possible, whether that's down a mine or on a remote site, something like that. Yeah.
Dave, we've got a good question here from Phil. Hey, Phil, thanks for the question. It's really simple. Can assessments be used as a standalone, or do they have to be used in conjunction with the micro-learning side of the platform?
Yes, great question. So currently, Phil, it is designed as being part of the learners' journeys. They don't exist as a separate thing that you can just take by themselves. But that being said, you can create a course with just a practical assessment in it as one lesson. So that is perfectly possible to do. And in fact, we do have use cases of people just using a course as a practical assessment and nothing else. And probably things to mention that are going to come up a little bit later in this webinar is that if that's an ongoing thing, so maybe you need to do that practical assessment every 3 months. Well, there's a feature coming up called recurring certification that would allow you to reset that, reset the practical assessment and be able to retake it every 3 months if that was the case. Great stuff.
Perfect. Thanks.
Any other call-out questions there before we go back to?
Yeah, just a quick question here around where the results are captured and stored, whether we can see it pass and fail.
Yeah, sure. So inside of this, let me just go back to the other screen. Effectively, the pass and fail is stored at the lesson level. So you are, for a particular individual, you are either marked as pass or fail for that practical assessment. If it's a fail, you're marked as incomplete for that lesson. So that's generally how it works. And so that will show up in all your analytics as you would normally expect with the rest of course progress.
Great stuff.
Cool. Now what I might do is, unless there's any other questions about practical assessments and how to use them, I might just go back into the presentation and keep going. Is that okay, Luke? Does that sound all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do that then. And I'll just present from here. Okay. What I did is I actually prepared, because my iPhone wasn't playing well with me earlier on. I prepared just a very quick example of me doing this on my phone using the QR code. So I'm just going to very quickly play that for you. Oh, sorry. So here's me just scanning that QR code here as the assessor. I'm already signed in, so it just takes me straight to the practical assessment. I've started it for this particular individual. Looks very familiar to me. Might be myself. And then I'm filling in the details there. And the one thing I forgot to mention as I was doing this before is when I submit, obviously I'm going to be marking that as either essentially pass or fail, but I can also add in comments that are visible to the learner. So we're just going to go through this very quickly. Now I can make those comments either internal only, or I can share them with the visitor as well, the trainer also. Sorry, I can share them with the learner. So here's this passing this particular individual. Now, one of the things that I should have mentioned, and I'm sorry I didn't, is that when this gets submitted, there's two other things that happen as well. There's a PDF version of this assessment that's created, and that PDF is then stored in the learner's profile so that the learner can access that if you choose to share it with them. And it's also stored in the back end as well, so you can access the assessment at any point in time. Great stuff. Okay. So there in summary, I might just go through that again. Scan the QR code, launch the assessment, log in if you're not already logged in as a facilitator, perform the assessment, and then away you go. Great stuff. So it's a very popular feature. We're getting lots of feature requests in it. If you've got any feature requests for me or ways that we can improve this particular feature, I'd love to hear them. Even if it's not on this chat, you can reach me at david@edapp.com. My emails are always open. Okay, so what I might do is I might change tack from the stuff that's just landed, and I might talk about the stuff that's coming soon. Some really exciting stuff here. And a lot of this stuff is about compliance and what we want to provide to make compliance easier. We know that it can be somewhat, manual to ensure that your company is compliant with whatever training needs to be done. And so a lot of the features that you're going to see here are about incentivizing completion of courseware and making it easy and essentially set and forget for completing courseware in the future. So one of the first ones that's coming very soon, and when I say coming very soon, I think this will be released generally on the very first week of September. So it's coming in very, very soon, but it's going to be available for beta for anyone who's interested. So if you're on the call and you want to join the beta group, please reach out to folks looking after the chat and we can sort that out for you. But essentially, the first one is relative due dates. And so what's a relative due date? So when you assign coursework to someone, you can currently set a specific date for them to finish. So let's pretend that's the 18th of August. But obviously, as you get new people that join the organization, you don't want to have to keep resetting that date. And so that's where relative due dates come in. So instead of setting an absolute date, we can set a relative date. So say 30 days after they're enrolled. And so what that means is that now you've got a point in time to incentivize folks to finish the courseware. And if they don't finish it within that period of time, not only do they get reminders before the due date comes up, but they also get reminders directly after. And those keep going for about 3 days after that, and then another week after that, and then 2 weeks after that. So there'll be more reminders sent from the system to encourage people to finish the courseware. And so that's obviously relative to their enrollment date. So if they joined the company, 30 days after a main cohort, their relative due date will be 30 days after they enroll. That's configurable to any date you like, and is at a course level. Now, look, this one, I certainly know from the feedback we've had from customers is much sought after. What have you heard from our customers about this one and the ones that are looking forward to it?
Much sought after is an understatement. I think there's going to be a lot of people that use this feature straight out of the gates. I mean, it makes total sense for, whether you're planning an induction process and, work in an office like I do, and maybe I join a business and I take my kind of code of conduct 1 week and then follow it up with some sales basics. That's still the level that I'm on, by the way. A couple of weeks later, the applications here really are valid for every sort of industry. Kind of thinking about it from a education or a kind of goal of educating on products or different releases or iterations of products, whether you're in retail or other sectors. Obviously we are all kind of working on schedules of content releases, no matter what sort of industry we're in. So the ability to be able to kind of set up these dates and set and forget is going to be really powerful. But I think it's also worth noting that obviously EdApp has scheduling features that exist in the platform already, and they're very much designed to release a course to a group of people and at once. So it's not an individual enrollment. It's more specific to groups and broader enrollments into content. So with relative dates and the existing features, you've got all of the bases covered, I think.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So we're really excited about that one. As I say, coming out very soon. Now, following up after that is another one called recurring certification. Now, recurring certification effectively allows you to set an expiry period for a course. And what this does is it means that when that expiry period is eventually comes through, the course will be set to incomplete, and the assigned learners will have to recomplete that courseware. So of course, what that does, it then takes the effort out of having to manage ongoing compliance. It's effectively set and forget. And so you can base that when the learners first complete the training, or if you want a very specific date when you first publish the course. And so that gives you two options for how you might want to manage recurring certification. And so effectively, just like the relative due dates before it, there will be reminders that will come to remind them that the courseware is going to expire and that they need to retake it. And you can actually set the period by which you want them to have it done by. So it's almost like a reverse due date, if that makes sense. You send it, 30 days before it's due to expire, and that's a countdown for them to start taking that course and completing it, thereby ensuring that your team and your business is not in risk by not being compliant. Other things that are, I think, really important in this one are, it's going to be the bedrock of another thing that we want to do, which is escalation reporting. So we know that due dates are great and it's fantastic. You've got a way to encourage people to finish things off, and reminders are even better because we're all busy people, and trying to get stuff done can sometimes be problematic. But sometimes you need to go a little bit beyond that, and you need to start empowering the managers of those folks to be able to chase up and make sure that things get done. And so recurring certification is going to be part of a series of escalation reports, where not only will the notifications happen for the learners, but they'll also happen for the managers of people that are nearing expiry of compliance-based courses. And what we'll be looking to do is not send individual notifications, because if you've got a large workforce, that can be quite problematic, but rather roll that up in a digest type email where you can see who's coming up for an expiry of certification, and those that are overdue that you need to maybe chase up.
I think it's worth stopping down here as well to talk about the fact that EdApp already gives you the ability to create user segmentations and groups and hierarchies in the platform. Our largest deployments would have thousands of user groups that have assigned managers that are responsible for the performance of those teams. So these features really aim to connect with those existing functionalities, so that as we're talking about here, a manager of a specific group in far off Indonesia or Western Australia will be informed when his team aren't certified with some, important trainings that they need to be. So really, in conversations that I've had with customers, where you have dispersed audiences, you have dispersed teams that are working autonomously, but they have to be kept up to standard. These sort of features are essential.
Yeah, and our approach here, and really the vision and the product team here, is we want to make it less cumbersome, less administrative effort in order to manage compliance. We have all the tools and all the bits and pieces that we need. It's just about trying to make that almost set and forget, so that you can be assured that you are compliant. Now, in saying that, we know that the other part that's really important, and moving slightly off of compliance, is the ability to review courseware. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce the time to roll out by essentially gathering and resolving feedback all in one place. Often we hear about folks that have to send, some coursework off to legal, or perhaps it needs to be reviewed by a subject matter expert and so on. And that can really expand in time it takes to get that coursework rolled out. And sometimes things can be lost. So there's an efficiency loss there as well. So one of the next things that is about to begin development now is the ability to review content. Now, what I've got is hot off the presses, a click through from the design team of how this is going to work. So I thought I'd share that one, and then we'll go into questions after that, if that's okay, Luke. How does that sound? Yeah? So what I'll do here is I'm just going to take you into here. So very soon, authors will be able to send their courseware for review from within the LMS, and basically just click and send. Can you see that? I don't know if it's, there we go. Where they'll be able to review a course and get that sent off for review. And what you'll see in here is, you've got the course itself, the description, the lessons involved, various different ways to preview it in tablet and mobile and desktop. They'll be able to share the thing for review, add in their reviewers, both internal and external, and send an invite for those that they want to review it. Now those people have now been added into the review, if you like, process. And what I'm going to do is I'm very quickly going to jump over and see what that looks like from a reviewer's point of view. If they don't already belong, if they don't already have an EdApp account, then what will happen is they will be asked to create an account very quickly. And we will be working on an anonymous version of this, i.e. one where they don't need an EdApp account at all. But the very first version of this, they'll create an EdApp account, they'll fill in their details, and then they'll be able to start adding comments. So they'll be able to, based on each of the individual slides within the course, add their comments for things that need to be resolved. They can go ahead, they can mention people, they can add in the comments, they can post those, and the author will get a notification for the comments added into the review. So again, they can go on and keep adding more and more of these things in until they're finished with the review, and they can click, and that will mark them as finished. From the author's point of view, I'll just move over here. Hopefully the screen updates quickly. Sorry, there we go. It's just taking a while to update. Like I say, the author will get notifications that there are items or comments to be resolved. They can go in and look at those comments as they've been added from the people in that reviewing party, and they can go in through and start marking off either responses to those things or marking those things as complete, so they can speed up that review process. And it really means that you can include all the parties at once and make all the changes in one place, so you can speed up the time to roll out that courseware. So we're super excited about this one, and just about to start development on this this week. I thought I'd share it as quickly as possible. And again, we're always looking for people who want to be involved in our beta projects, so that we can get feedback from the most important people, which is our customers.
Cheers, Dave. No questions on reviewing just yet, but certainly this sort of feature is a hot request as well, and giving stakeholders like legal teams the ability to go in and add a million markups is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing, but right now, this process of reviewing content in EdApp, like many other systems and documents, is really a process of exporting a transcript and imagery from the platform, and then providing that to other stakeholders to add the red pen to. This sort of markup approach is going to really just make the whole process a lot more efficient, which is great.
That's right. Adding all that stuff into one place, and also I think importantly, getting to see how it looks in there. rather than just being a static PDF or just a series of text. Folks will be able to see exactly what it looks like in context, and then we'll keep all that information in one place. And so you'll also be able to see the various different versions of the course and what has been marked off as done, or if there's different reasons for it not being there. So I'm really excited about this functionality and how much it's going to speed up the process for a lot of our customers.
Awesome. The crowd's pretty quiet on the review functionality. I guess it's quite straightforward. There is a question here around recurring certification, though. Can I keep trace of the previous version of the course when the other one is updated for record keeping and analytics?
Yes. So basically, for recurring certification, it's not something that we've done an awful lot of in the past. To be fair, is the need for versioning across different versions of the courseware, but you'll be able to see what version someone has taken of a course, and that's super important. So an example might be, in a previous example, a previous course, there may have been some regulation that might have been updated and changed. And then once that's changed, obviously you want to see that people have either taken the new version or which version they did take. So in analytics, you'll be able to see not only what version was taken, but also the changes that happened in that version.
Brilliant. Awesome. Another question here around exporting the results of a practical assessment. The question is whether it can be exported to Excel. Is that currently available, Dave?
No, I'm afraid that one's not available. I'd love to know more about the use case from whoever asked that question. I'm sure the team that are building practical assessments would too. Currently, the assessment itself is output to PDF, so that you've got essentially a soft copy that you can keep of each of those assessments. But if there's some more analytical reasons that you might want to, and I can imagine a few, I'd love to know a bit more about the use case.
Awesome. I've just popped Dave's email in the chat there for everybody to see. Barbara, if you want to shoot Dave a note, we'd love to hear more there. A question here, someone who joined us late, she wanted to clarify, Kirsten here wanted to clarify whether practical assessments is actually available right now. We've been kind of talking about things that are available or just released and those that are upcoming. So at the top of the call, we covered the group training feature that is live. You can access it right now. Practical assessments has been out for quite a few months now. We made some enhancements recently for the ability to capture video and signatures, which is probably a week or two old. And we've just spoken about relative dates. That's coming in a couple of weeks, is it not, Dave? Recurring certification coming shortly after, and the review is also in development currently. Awesome. It looks like we've gotten through a lot of the questions here. Any final questions before we wrap up, team? Okay. Barbara's just responded in the chat around I guess the need for Excel, and she's just mentioned here, obviously there's advantages of sorting and modifying the data when you're dealing with larger data sets. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a nice little note here for me. I think it is, and probably not for you, Dave. Luke, are you a Billy Idol fan? Thanks for that one, Alison. I am. I'm planning my white wedding later this year in November. Thanks for that one. Okay. What about integrations? That's obviously a big question. Dave, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, like in a general sense, about integrations. So, we know that we are a part of an organization's ecosystem, And to be honest, we've got a bit of an integrations forward mindset when it comes to that, which is we want to integrate with the tools that you use the most, whether that be a HRIS system or a payroll system or whatever it might be, so that we make it easier for you to deploy your training as quickly as possible. So I'd probably start with two things. One, our integrations, the number of integrations that we support is rapidly increasing every month. And if you don't see an integration there that you think we should have, then please let us know. Because like I say, the team is moving pretty quickly. I think the most recent one we had was HiBob. We're moving across into a few other ones just now as we speak. So integrations is definitely something we're investing quite heavily in to make sure that we make it easy for you to deploy your training as quickly as possible.
Okay, great. I think that covers us here for today's session, Dave. It was great to chat, and thanks for leading the show today.
Great stuff. And like I say to everyone who's on the call, if you are interested in trying out any of these functionalities, if you're a current customer, then please get in touch and we can get you onto some of our beta programs. We're always looking for feedback, but just in general, we love your feedback anyway. So feel free to use that email address and hit me up with any questions or feedback that you might have.
Awesome. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for the Billy Idol jab. We'll see you on the next the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you. Bye.